Welcome back to another episode of the High Vibration Reset. I'm your host, Ciara Conlon. Now, before we get into this week's episode, I'm asking for your support. If you are already following the podcast, please share it with a friend. And if you aren't already following, please click the follow button. This will really help us to grow and expand our reach. If you have any suggestions for guests or you have a question about any of the episodes that you would like answered, just reach out to us by sending an email to contact us at ciaraconlon.com. So in this week's episode, I speak to self-trust coach and RTT practitioner Carole Kelly. Carole is based in Galway, Ireland, and she helps high-achieving women uncover and shift the subconscious patterns keeping them stuck. So in this conversation, Carole told me all about how the nervous system plays a role in our confidence levels, our decision-making, and our clarity. So she also shared the 3 core subconscious beliefs that limit us. And she gave some very good tips for building your self-trust every day. So let's get into this episode. Carole, you are very welcome to the High Vibration Reset. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much, Ciara. Delighted to be here.
So can you kick us off, Carole, and just tell us, how does somebody become a self-trust coach?
Well, I'll tell you about my own journey to self-trust because it's not something I ever would have predicted. So I left my job at the end of 2024 and I knew I wanted to get into coaching. I trained up to be a coach and was at this point where I really needed to move forward with it and actually start working with clients. And I was working with a high impact coach. So he was going to be this person who really set me up to be successful and achieve everything I wanted to achieve. And he was giving me these tasks to do, which was feeling very uncomfortable for myself. I started feeling a lot of resistance. I felt very uncomfortable in my system. I was like, okay, I'm not really sure what's going on here. And I was having a session with him and he was getting quite frustrated and he just shouted at me, "You need to trust yourself." And then he hung up. And I was like, oh my God. So it really took me aback. It's not definitely not a style of coaching that I would like, or what I would do myself, but it set me off on a spiral. I was just like, oh my God, I'm like, why is my system feeling so bad? Like what, I was a people pleaser. So it was really conflicting for me. I really wanted to do a good job. I wanted to make him happy. I wanted to make myself happy. I wanted to do all these things and I couldn't understand why I couldn't move forward. I just felt so stuck and overwhelmed and I just couldn't move forward. And him asking me or telling me to trust myself, I was just like, what does he mean? And it started this whole discovery where I was like, I I don't trust myself. I can't remember the last time I trusted myself, and like what does that actually mean to me? Like how would I move if I did trust myself? And I realized when I looked back on all of my career that that is how I ended up getting to where I was being completely burnt out. I realized that I was people pleasing. I was overworking. I was trying to make everything perfect because I was trying to stay safe and I didn't trust that I was capable enough. And it was that discovery that, really led me to understand what it was. For years, I used to think if I'm just more confident, if I could just get more confident, then I'd be able to do this. If I could just achieve this, then I'd feel good. I'd feel brilliant. Everything would make more sense and be good. And I realized that self-trust comes under that. Self-trust is understanding that you're going to be fine, whatever happens. You have this inner security and safety and knowing that things will work out and you'll always be okay. And, you know, I think now more than ever, people are always grabbing the new shiny things, trying to make themselves feel better. But it's about coming home to yourself, and that is the certainty that you need. And it's from there that you're able to move forward much stronger. So it became something that I was just really passionate about. And I was like, okay, I need to work in this space.
So you can trust yourself and not be confident.
I think self trust is the foundation for confidence because you feel it inside yourself. You know that, okay, I might make the wrong decision here and I could overthink it and think about all the what ifs. But if you have that trust inside you, you're like, do you know what? If I make the wrong decision, I'll be fine. I'll figure it out. That's where confidence comes from. Like, confidence is from taking that step and just being like, oh, it didn't work out. I know I'll be fine. I can move forward and do something else instead.
So it's
People
the
think,
it's the feeling the fear and going for it. It's that courage
yeah,
to take a chance. But as you say, so is it connected then, Carole, to your intuition? Do you need to be intuitive to trust yourself, do you think?
I think your intuition is just that steady inner knowing that, like, fear drowns it out. Fear, is that part of you that's running around in your head. It's like banging the drums, it's ringing all the alarms. It's saying, like, what about this? What about that? Have you thought about this? Like, maybe this is the solution. Where your inner knowing and that inner voice, that inner trust that you have, that's the one that's saying, it's sitting there with its hand up, it's saying, you know the answer. And it's really simple, just move forward with this. And when you start building your self trust, when you start listening to that inner voice, then the fear and all the noise starts quieting and starts going away, and everything becomes a lot clearer.
So tell us what happened to you next. So you were shouted at, you had a little bit of a freak out, and what's going on? What does he mean? What did you do to get yourself from that point to being somebody who trusts herself and who is a lot?
So I kept thinking, like, I'm broken. There's something in me that's just wrong. I need to, like, fix myself. And maybe I can't fix myself. Like, am I unfixable? Like, have too many things happen to me that I can't get beyond this? Is this why I've never felt confident? So, I've always been interested. I've always been curious. I suppose I've always trying to understand, like, why I feel the way I do. And I came across Marissa Peer. Um, I've heard her on podcasts. I've seen her work. And I picked up one of her books, and it's Tell Yourself a Better Lie. And the name in itself grabbed me because I was like, okay, like, I do feel like I'm lying to myself all the time. So maybe it is a bit more simple. And it's in reading that book and listening to her work that I understood that I picked up these unhelpful beliefs along the way. And there were still parts of me that were stuck back in primary school when I got in trouble for not getting an answer right, or when I was presenting and it felt awful and maybe someone in the classroom laughed and I internalized that. And I pulled this attachment and I put so much emotion on it. And I understood that I was running on these old patterns, these old beliefs, and they were, they were in my nervous system. My subconscious was like remembering them, and it was trying to keep me safe. And it's why I was holding myself back. It's why I was feeling stuck. It's why I was feeling so dysregulated, people pleasing, overworking. So, RTT, which is Rapid Transformational Therapy, is a method that Marissa Peer developed herself, and it combines hypnosis, um, psychotherapy, CPT, and NLP. And all of those things help you to understand where you formed these beliefs. So you can go back, find your fracture points in life where you form these unhelpful beliefs that are now trying to keep you safe. And you can go back and you can understand them a bit more. You can uncover them, reframe them, and then move forward to something more empowering and heal yourself. And that really helped me. And I just loved it so much that I had to study it. And then I, qualified in it. I just loved it so much because it doesn't have to be so hard.
Okay. And in your journey from learning this and, trying it out on yourself, so was the first intention, Carole, to just use it for your own self to, help you with your lack of trust issues?
Yeah,
That was,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think, especially as women, in today's age, we're always trying to grab the next thing that's going to help us. And when I heard about RTT, I was like, this is it. Like this is actually it. I could properly make sense. I understand myself more. I can have compassion for myself and all those older, younger versions of myself. And at first I was like, okay, I'll just try this for myself, see how it goes. And then it was unpacking it that I was like, okay, I know so many people that I could help with this. I know so many women, especially, who are having discussions with me that they're tying themselves up in knots, they're running themselves into the ground, and I'm just realizing that it's unhelpful beliefs. It's those subconscious beliefs that are helping them or getting them stuck in those patterns, and we can just lift the veil and move forward, and it doesn't have to be that hard.
And does most of it come from childhood?
Yeah, it really does. Like the majority of the times you're talking to clients, it's something that's happened when they were like 4, 5, usually before 7. Um, some patients even remember themselves being in a cot, like being so young, screaming out for their mother and their mother not coming to them, or witnessing something at a very young age. We absorb everything at that age, but it's also school. School is so damaging for so many people. It's your family environment. It's usually childhood, really. But it can also be like a horrible boss that you worked with earlier on in your career. That might not be the first fracture. You might have already been fractured up to that point, but a boss saying something horrible to you, or a really traumatic experience that happens in the workplace, can be just as damaging as something that happened earlier on in your life.
So what do you mean by fracture? What exactly is happening there at that point?
It's a point where something has been really traumatic to you. So you have formed a very emotional reaction. It's been really traumatic for you. So there's big T and there's little t. Um, and my big T might be someone else's little t, and vice versa. But in that moment, you're really questioning who you are. That trust that you had in yourself and who you thought you were and what you thought was acceptable or possible is no longer true. It started to question. So this doubt has started to form. You've picked that up from somebody else. It's a big moment for you in your life. And you might move on and in a few weeks be like, forgotten all about it, but your subconscious remembers. And then suddenly your nervous system is triggered years later. And you're like, you're kind of like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I don't know why I'm reacting to this person the way I am. And it's in hypnosis that you can go back and you can actually find that link. I've even in my own sessions, we usually go back to 3 points that are really pivotal. And I remember saying in one of my sessions, I don't know why this is coming up, but it all made sense when we examined it and we understood why and what was the connection between the other 3 moments. So our subconscious mind remembers these things, it picks them up, it stores them. Our conscious mind doesn't necessarily make that link. Um, and we understand then what they are through exploring it together.
So are they usually the same beliefs for everybody? Is it, when you talk about uncovering these unconscious beliefs, limiting beliefs, are they the same things that we all suffer from, whether we've had little trauma or big trauma?
There's usually three main ones. So the first one and the big one really is I'm not enough. You've picked up somewhere that you as a person, as you are, is not good enough. So you have to, please those around you. You have to work really hard, and then you'll feel enough. The other one is that you're different. So especially as children, if you feel that you're different, it's so bad. You don't want to be different at all. You just want to be like everybody else. You want to belong. And that goes back to when you were like a caveman, you needed to be part of a tribe. You were safe if you were with other people. So if you feel different, then, you're always trying to people please. You start abandoning yourself to be part of someone else's group. And then the third one is that something isn't available to you. So others have it. It's out of your reach. You'll never be able to get there. They're the three main ones really that are fueling most people's issues.
And when people come to you, do you know it's probably that one, or does it take some digging to get to where that person needs to go?
Yeah, sometimes there's a combination, it's I felt myself even that there was a combination of the three. um but yeah, typically there's one main one that you kind of like, I think this is the problem. But it's when you go back into hypnosis and you realize like something else might come out completely and you're like, okay. So it's really about going on that journey together and figuring it out.
And Carol, do you work with certain types of people mostly, or is it anybody that can come to you with any type of problem?
Well, you can come with any problem, but I really focus on women who are in their 30s and 40s. I was like, I'll start with someone who I'm very familiar with. I know all the issues that I have had, all of my friends, a lot of my friends have come to me for advice over the years. So I'll start with these. But I would be in the workplace, I'd look around and I would see such capable women, intelligent women who were tying themselves up into knots and not being able to accept the success that they were feeling. Um, and sometimes you want to shake them and just be like, oh my God, you're amazing. We are the best cheerleaders for our friends and our colleagues. We're the first ones to be able to see how amazing they are, and you just can't accept it yourself. And they're usually the ones that they're doing everything for everyone. So yeah, I really wanted to focus on helping women.
Very good. And you mentioned burnout. So did you actually suffer a burnout or come close to it? And what career were you leading before you moved into this field?
So I think I actually had burnout a few times in my life. So the first time was in 2017. Um, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I wish now that I could say that that was enough for me to tackle my issues, but it really wasn't. I went into treatment, I had my operations, and I went back to work 6 months later. And I had all of the plans to set boundaries, to, you know, have a healthier lifestyle. But, as soon as you're back, you're back. Your workload just builds up again. And especially if you have those tendencies, you fall right back into the same patterns because you're used to it. It is a pattern that you've been running on for so many years. And I've had so many health issues off the back of that, side effects. I was straight into the menopause and I was dealing with that. And I had this really bad leg issue and I was just running myself into the ground and working through all of these things. But then in 2022, just when I felt like very successful, like I was actually like, I think I'm hitting my stride again, like everything is working out. The rug was pulled from under me and I came crashing down. And I felt like someone had picked me up and turned me upside down. Like I didn't know what to believe anymore. All of the good work that I had done, I felt had just been wiped away. Yeah, I felt like I had to build myself up again. And I kind of felt like I got back there. But then in 2024, something else happened. And yeah, I think that was my point where I was like, okay, I need to make a proper change. And when I left my job, I thought, oh, I'll be a new woman now. I'll be great. I'll get all this time. I'll be able to look after myself. But burnout hit me like a truck. Um, that's when I really properly felt it because I had actually stopped. There was nothing like there was no work to distract me anymore. And that's what I had used for many years. I couldn't control my body. I had all of these symptoms and health issues that I was managing. So I threw myself into work because I knew I could manage that. It was the thing that I could control. That was gone now. And I was just like, okay, what now? Like who am I outside of work? Um, I couldn't think properly. I properly had like a fog come over me. Even watching a TV show, I couldn't follow it. I couldn't listen to a podcast. I couldn't read a book, listen to music. Like I was just in a fog for months. And that's when I really realized, okay, this is something I never want to experience again and I can never go back. So yeah, I properly had to rebuild myself from there.
So it took a cancer diagnosis and 3 burnouts before you listened.
Yeah, yeah. They say your body whispers until it screams, and my body was screaming for a very long time. And finally I was like, okay, enough is enough. I really realized that no one was going to save me. I had to save myself. And that's really empowering in a way, but also I'm like, God, I wasted so many years going through these harmful cycles, destroying my body, my immune system, my nervous system. Everything was just shot. And, you know, every success under the world is not worth your well-being and your health. That's the number one priority for me now.
Do you think, Carole, that you needed to experience all of those things in order to become the person you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's why like self-trust coaching and RTT just feels like the right thing for me. It's like, okay, I've been through it all. I have abandoned myself enough over the years. I know what it takes to rebuild yourself. I know what the patterns look like. I have overcome so much unnecessarily. I can look at other people who haven't experienced half of those things and help them move through it and have a life that they really feel successful in and can accept and enjoy. They don't have to, burn themselves to the ground.
Sounds great. Yeah. Ideal. Listen, you mentioned the nervous system. So, what part does the nervous system play in confidence, in decision making? How does it speak to us, let's say, or what's its role?
Well, if your nervous system is dysregulated, then clarity and confidence just feels completely out of reach. You need to feel safety in order to be confident. And you need that safety and regulation as well to be able to make decisions. It's like I mentioned earlier about the fear running around banging the pots and pans and ringing all the alarms. It's a distraction that it's very hard to focus on and make a decision from that place. So it's regulating the system and feeling safe within yourself will help you to be more confident and will help you to make more clear decisions.
And when you work with somebody and you do the sessions, is there follow up exercises for people so that they stay regulated, or do the sessions themselves reset the nervous system?
The sessions themselves really helps people to understand themselves a lot more, understand where all of these triggers are coming from. And we remove that, we reframe it, and we set them off to believe something more empowering and more supportive. And each person will get a personalized audio that they can listen to for 21 days. And that has all to do with their specific set of goals, what they want, who they are, their situation. So it's very bespoke to them. And that helps them to form new neural pathways, new safety, um, a new internal dialogue to run by. And it just helps them regulate and feel a lot better within themselves.
So is that something that you still do, Carole, or now that you've been through the process and out the other side, confident and calm and clear, how do you stay in that mode?
Yeah, I made my own audio and I listen to my own audio every day, every single day, because there's some days that I'm not feeling my best, that, something else might pop up and be like, oh, okay, I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable today. And then listening to your audio over and over again just helps you to remember, what's important to you, what you want to achieve, who you are. And it helps to silence that fear and strengthen that trust and inner knowing.
So I'm glad to hear that you listen to yourself, because I did it accidentally the other night. I chose a meditation to go to sleep with, and I was closed my eyes, and the next minute, hang on a minute, that's me. I don't want to listen to myself going to sleep. Maybe I should have. But yeah. So why do you think so many women get themselves into this state of not trusting themselves, of, being so close to burnout, not having boundaries? Why do you think we just keep replaying these patterns? Even though there's, women out there listening who've heard this before, who've, heard that we need to put boundaries in place, but it just seems to keep perpetuating?
I think as women, we've been programmed for self-sacrifice from a young age. We've all grown up and seen mothers or aunts or, you know, maybe teachers running around doing everything for everyone. And it's rewarded. We've all heard people say, "Oh, isn't she great? She does everything."
Selfless.
Yeah, selfless. That's it. We've heard this and we've been programmed for it our whole lives. Um, we've seen women in the office who they're the ones who organize treats. They remember people's birthdays. They do all the work. They organize the meeting rooms. They're wearing multiple hats. And again, they're always celebrated. Then there's the opposite end of things where there's a woman with strong boundaries and, oh, she's difficult, you know, or she's a bitch, or she's this, or she's that. And then there's the men who are just firm and respected. And it's impossible standards to be living up to. Um, yeah, it's that sacrifice really that programming of the self-sacrifice and it being rewarded, I think is the biggest issue. As women as well, we're going into a workplace and we're being told like we can have it all. We can have the success, we can have the great family, the amazing house at home. And social media is only making that even worse because we're seeing constant examples of people who are so successful and they have everything, but we don't know what's going on in the background. We're seeing the highlight reel. So, I think it's just an impossible standard that we're all living up to and we can recognize it. Um, we've been programmed for it. It's a bias that we have as well. Um, but we can update that program within ourselves.
So, we talk about telling stories about our lives, and we all have a story about the life that we're living. And, some of those stories can be empowering, and some of them are keeping us trapped in those programs, So we have the historical programs, the systemic, the patriarchy that keeps us stuck in our roles, as well as the modern stuff that's coming at us. And we've all heard the Barbie speech. Yeah. We
Yeah.
know how difficult it is for us. um where do you think is the best place to start? Because there's so many possibilities. So is it going back to the deeper programming, or is it shedding some of the external influences, or is it a combination of both? What's your thoughts on that?
think I think it's about asking yourself, like, what does success look like for you? Not by other people's standards. Um, Determine what it is for you. For me, success is feeling content. It's sitting on the couch with my husband and my two cats watching something on Netflix. Like, that is what success is for me now. I think for so many years, people have been programmed again to follow this path, to go meet these milestones. You get married,
I've been
you have
there, yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
you you get promoted, you're moving on and it's like, okay, is this the path that I want to be on? Or am I on this path because I think I'm supposed to be on it? So I think it's really getting curious with yourself. And curious is a word that keeps coming up for me over the past year. I think it's important that we get curious with ourselves. Many times we push things aside, our feelings, our thoughts. But get curious about why you think you should be doing something? Does it feel good for you? Is this actually what you want? And understanding what success is for you. I get rid of those external signposts and boundaries and expectations, and you focus on yourself.
So how do you do that though? Because I know, that's great advice and perfect answer that you gave to that question. What should you do? You should trust yourself. But, in the practical reality, let's say I'm here now, I'm overthinking everything. I don't trust myself. I don't know what I want to do. I think I might want to do that, but society tells us we need to make more money and we need to have a bigger house and a bigger car. So how do I start with learning to trust myself, or knowing, because I can look and say, okay, what does success look like? But how do I know I'm not still being influenced by external factors with the answer that I write?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. There are so many pressures and external influences, and sometimes we don't know what we want or who we are. And I think mostly women reach their late 30s, maybe early 40s, and they kind of look up after struggling their way through for so long, and they're like, hold on, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know where I'm going. And it creates this crisis moment. Um, I really think it starts with looking inward and finding out what, it is just as simple as asking yourself what you want. What does easy look like? What would you be happy with? What boundaries do you want to set for yourself and for your life? It is just making it really simple. Um, but we need to uncover those internal expectations and drivers as well. I think it's you can't put in your Google Maps like where you want to go without where you are. You have to figure out where you are first. And sometimes it's figuring out where you came from as well.
Okay. And how do you do those moments of contemplation? Would you journal, or what process would you use? Or is it just sitting asking the question of who am I? What do I want? Or do you think you need somebody to help with that?
Sometimes you do need someone to help, um, especially if you're feeling quite overwhelmed and stuck. You can feel like you're in this dark room. And I always think coaching is great for that. It's like someone comes along with the torch and it's just like, this is the way. It helps you to quiet all those external factors, all that noise that's clouding your judgment, and the what ifs, like, what if this, what if that, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, and understanding what's really important to you. So coaching is really good for that. It's helping you find your way, something that feels really authentic to you. Um, like when I started doing the high impact coaching, it was just not for me. Like it just was never going to work for me and my nervous system. It was too much. It wasn't authentic. Um, just like in my career, when I felt like I should be somebody else to succeed, I felt like I was putting on a costume or playing a part. I didn't feel authentic. And then all this imposter syndrome comes up. So it's really about coming home to yourself and understanding who you are and getting someone's help with that, but also with journaling. I think that the best thing you can ever do is get to know yourself really well and just sit with yourself and ask yourself questions, because I've been in that situation where a coach or a friend or somebody has asked me a question and I feel I have to say something that will please them or make me look good. Where if you're just being yourself and just journaling, you can say anything you want. You can burn it afterwards if you want, so nobody will ever know. But it's very important that you get curious with yourself.
And it's a good point, and get honest as well, because sometimes we don't like the answer. Sometimes we don't like what, is coming out of us. So we'll look for a better answer. And what I mean by that, I was in a session recently where I was not the coach, and I was being asked some very good questions. And the question would be asked and I would laugh because straight away the answer would come, but it was an answer I didn't want to speak, because that's not the person I want to be, or that's not the person that I want somebody else to think I am. So I think it's important for people to really, as you say, get curious and listen, because our answers are there. We may not like them right now, but until we look at them, until we accept that that's the reality, that's the true story, that's not the story we're telling ourselves, it's hard to maneuver or do something about it. So if you're sitting feeling overwhelmed, feeling stuck, feeling like, I'm close to burnout, or what's the first step for somebody feeling like that? What's your advice? Is it call
Uh,
you? Well, of
it could
course it
be.
is.
It could be. Um, yeah, I think we tie ourselves up in knots. And I think it definitely in modern times we're always looking externally for an answer. Um, we can spend hours on TikTok thinking like I'm one scroll away to getting the answer. But if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, it doesn't have to be that way. It's never too late to get off the train and pause. There's no shame in admitting that you're not happy with how things are. Things might look picture perfect from the outside and you might be completely miserable on the inside. It's never too late to make a change. So I would ask for help. I would work with a coach, figure out who you need, what you need, what would make you happy, what would make you feel fulfilled. Very often we're just moving through life like we're just, you know, we're getting up in the morning, we're dropping the kids off, we're coming back, we're going straight into work, we're throwing food into our mouths. We don't get any space for ourselves. And sometimes it is about carving out some space for yourself. It's very easy to get lost in our roles that we play, the job titles, and, the mom, the wife, whatever. It's so easy to get lost in that. So, of course, so many people are feeling stuck and overwhelmed when they haven't given themselves the time to actually pause and work on themselves. I think the best thing you can ever do is invest in yourself. It is the greatest money spent ever. You'll never
Absolutely.
regret it.
I 100% agree. But it's also important to note that so you were in media, and
Yeah.
when you realized that you wanted to move or change careers, you got a coach, but that coach didn't quite work for you. So it's important to note that as well, that we don't always get it right first time in terms of finding that person that's going to be the one to facilitate or help you get to the next stage. We've all had those experiences. And I know people have it with counselors as well, that they
Yes.
try a couple before they find that fit. So it is important to realize, you could have, after that experience that you have, said, oh, coaching's a load of SH and I'm not going there again. But
Yeah.
then you found a slightly different mode, which really was the key for you to, unlocking all of this new career, new life.
Absolutely. And I've been lucky enough to work with many coaches over the years that have helped me get to where I needed to at that moment. Um, but yeah, like you said, it's like finding a counselor. It's like even like finding a hairdresser,
Yeah, true.
there's someone for everyone out there. And I think that's really important. That is the joy of having clarity calls as well, that you get to have an opportunity to see if the chemistry is right, to
Trust
see
somebody
like,
out. Yeah.
is this right for me? And it's totally fine for you to say no, actually, you know
Mm.
what? You're not for me. There's plenty more fish in the sea, as they say. It is really important that you find the right person to help you on your journey.
So it's a really good point. If you don't do your own nails and you don't do your own hair, well, then don't be doing your own personal growth and get help. There's help out there for everything. Tell me this, Carole, what small daily practices can you do to strengthen self-trust over time?
The number one thing would be keep promises to yourself. That is the greatest way to build self trust. And it's where a lot of people fall down because I'm so guilty of this. I would open up my journal first thing on a Monday. I would write out my to do list and I would completely fill the page of everything that I need to do. And I'm setting myself up for fail immediately. I get to the end of the day, maybe I've ticked off a few, but I'm like, oh, already feeling bad, thinking I've got so much to do tomorrow and I already have X, Y, and Z that I need to do. So then you wake up on Tuesday, you open up your journal and you're like, oh my God, I'm completely overwhelmed. I've got so much to do. So what I did was I started to really pare back and get realistic about what I could achieve in a day. So I would start out with 3 things and just keep it really simple. You can always add more onto the to-do list if you finish those 3 things and you have more time. But start getting really realistic with your capacity because capacity is something that we massively underestimate or overestimate.
Yeah, yeah. I'm nodding here going, yeah, yeah.
We overestimate what is possible. Um, so definitely keeping those promises to yourself is number one. You get to the end of the day, you actually feel proud of yourself and you're like, okay, I did everything I said I would do. And that is what slowly builds up self trust. It's also not asking other people's for their opinion all the time. So listening to yourself, like, what is it that I want to do, or what is it that I feel, or what do I think is the next step in this moment? And trusting that you don't have to ask other people, what would they do? Do you think I'm right? Because you're telling yourself that your voice doesn't matter. So it's all about strengthening that voice. So making decisions for yourself is very, very important. And then it's saying what you would do and doing it with other people as well. You can fall into a trap, especially if you're a people pleaser, of saying yes to everything. But just because somebody asks you to do something doesn't mean you have to say yes. So if somebody messages you and asks you to go to a dinner on Thursday night and you know that it's going to be difficult to go to that dinner, you might feel uncomfortable in that position. You know, it is hard for some people to set boundaries and say no. Even give yourself a moment and say, I'll get back to you, because you're creating this space. And once you have said, I'll get back to you, you're giving yourself that time, that moment to pause, to be able to say, okay, is it realistic to go to this? Do I actually want to go? Am I able to go? Will it feel good for me? And if you truly believe that you can go, then agree to it and then go. And you will feel so good for doing that, because you're like, okay, I showed up, I did it, I said I was going to go, and I did. And in doing that as well, you're also showing to other people that you are considered. You will decide if something is possible or not. You want to be seen as reliable and trustworthy to others just as much as you want for yourself. So I think that's very important.
Very good. Yeah. I've got a bit better at that lately. And, I would have been a devil for finding time in my calendar for people. If a client was going away and they wanted a session, I'd be squeezing them into a time that, I would have previously said that's my rest time. So
Mm.
I've got better at keeping those boundaries on my time. Well, mostly better. But yeah, we can all overcommit, or I think a lot of it is because you're trying to be helpful. And I've recently started to work it in on the committee with my tennis club, and I told them I don't want to do this because I know if there's a task, my hand will be up and I'll be trying to pull it down. But if I know I'm capable, it's my urge to help and to fix and to do things right. But we really need to, as you say, give ourselves that gap, that space to think, is this a good idea for me? And then not be later berating ourselves because I knew I shouldn't have done that. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Other than that, Carol, you were saying get clear on your priorities. So it's getting really clear on what do I really need to do, and kind of like that concept of under promise and over deliver. So under promise to yourself, just do the essential and achieve it. And
Yeah.
that's, yeah. But it sounds like as well you might need a life flow planner, which I'll have to send down to you after this.
Oh,
And will
lovely.
help you with your to-do list in organizing it and planning out your months. So and in terms of these practices, so if we can daily, is there a way to kind of daily remind ourselves of doing these few things that we can build on? Or is there, what do you advise? Is there one thing just to remind, even a post-it note or a reminder on your phone? Or what do you think is the best?
The post notes are very helpful. I have them everywhere. Um, it is, we do have these tendencies, and we're fighting against these patterns that have been there for decades. Um, so it's catching yourself. I think once you have awareness of it, that you're like, okay, this is coming up now. I have an urge to fill my to-do list with 50 things. Let's just keep it simple. I think that is the big thing. Uh, yeah, it's just like that daily reminder. I include it in my audio as well that I listen to, allowing myself the time, stepping back, giving myself space, trusting myself in the moment. It's all about the new programs that we're setting up for ourselves.
Very good. And if there was one message that you'd like to give women, what would it be?
You can be successful without sacrificing your well-being and your health. You don't have to have, it's not either or between ambition and well-being. You don't have to run yourself into the ground. You just have to upgrade your programming.
Very good. Very good. And how can people find out more about you, Carole?
They can visit me on my website. It's carolekellycoaching.com, or on Instagram, it's carolekelly_coaching.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we have all the links in the show notes there for Carole's details. So do look her up. And thanks again for giving us your time today. And we wish you the best of luck with your future career.
Thank you so much, Ciara. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So thank you for tuning in again. And remember that you can get all Carole's details below in the show notes. Also want to remind you to please follow and share the podcast. And I wish you a fabulous inner day.